Night was cool, the air was damp, and a light wind blew between the tombstones, rustling the dried leaves. 4 friends, Eric, Tom, Jessica, and Maddie, stood at the cast-iron gates of the old cemetery, exchanging glances. The street lights on the nearby street were dim, their yellow light not reaching the depths of the cemetery, leaving a black void beyond the gates. "So, guys, ready?" Tom grinned, jumping over the low fence instead of opening the creaky gate. Jessica rolled her eyes, but followed him. "This is stupid," Maddie muttered, wrapping herself in her sweatshirt. "Stay here all night? Really?" "Oh, come on," Eric clapped her on the shoulder. "We're just going to sit here for a few hours, laugh, and then we'll go home." They walked along a narrow gravel path, delving between the graves. The stone crosses and slabs looked old, covered in moss and cracks. Some of the inscriptions were faded, but on some you could still make out dates. Early 1900s. "Just a cemetery," Tom said, pulling a flashlight out of his backpack and pointing it to the side. "No big deal." They settled down on an old marble slab, throwing down their backpacks and spreading out their blankets. "So, any scary stories?" Jessica suggested, taking out a thermos. Eric grinned, but didn't answer, because he thought he saw someone watching them. Out of the corner of his eye, in the distance, behind the old tombstones, he caught movement. But when he turned his head, it was empty. Only darkness. Only the wind swaying the branches of the trees. He took a deep breath. They would have to spend the whole night here. Time dragged on. The friends told each other stories, laughed, pretended not to be scared. But as the night wore on, they became quieter. The darkness around them grew thicker. In the distance, between the graves, a light flickered. Small, almost invisible, it trembled in the air like a firefly. "Did you see that?" Maddie whispered, clutching the flashlight in her hand. "Just a flashlight from the road." Tom waved it off, but there was no confidence in his voice. The light was moving. It did not stay in one place, but glided smoothly between the gravestones, stopping for a second and then disappearing again behind the stone slabs. "That's definitely not a flashlight," Eric muttered, slowly getting up. The light grew brighter, and then another one appeared, and then a third. They glided slowly across the cemetery as if waiting for something. "Okay, I have to see what it is," Tom said, getting up. "Are you crazy?" Jessica asked sharply, but he had already stepped forward. The light seemed to be enticing him. "I'll just check and then come back." He waved his hand and moved between the graves. His friends watched him go, holding their breath. He walked further and further. The darkness seemed to swallow him, making his silhouette less clear, and then he was gone. He didn't scream. He didn't run back. He just dissolved into the darkness. "Tom?" Maddie called in a trembling voice. Silence. The lights stayed where they were. Waiting for the next one? Maddie, Jessica, and Eric stood, not daring to move. Tom hadn't returned. The darkness between the graves was dull, sticky, as if it hid something alive. The lights froze. They seemed to be waiting. And then they moved forward. Not sharply, not aggressively, smoothly, viscous, enticing. They surrounded them slowly, cutting off the way back. "Run!" Jessica shouted, but her voice was too quiet, as if the air was muffling the sound. They took off, leaving their things behind. Maddie ran first, Jessica followed, but Eric stumbled as a new light lit up in front of him. He froze, his fingers digging into the cold ground. The light hovered just in front of his face, shimmering with a soft blue light, and then he heard a voice, a whisper, soft, calling, "Don't run, stay." Eric's eyelids fluttered. Something pulled him forward. An invisible force gripped his legs. A chill ran up his spine. His body slowly, very slowly stretched forward toward the light. When Jessica looked back, Eric was gone. "No, no, no!" She squeezed Maddie's hand. But it was too late. The lights had closed in around them. Jessica tried to run, but her feet were rooted to the ground. Maddie screamed, but the sound was lost in the whispers that were now everywhere. Stay. We were waiting for you. You are part of us now. At the last second, they understood the truth. The lights were people. What was left of them, what they had become. The cemetery was silent again, and between the graves, new lights appeared. Blue, flickering, waiting for more.